for green buildings, which is a movement which was started by India Green Building Council about 15 years back. To our credit, we have done almost 60% of green buildings which are lit in India. We are associated with them. We have forwarded into LED lighting about 6 years back. We lead us in LED lighting, both for the functional spaces as well as for the decorative spaces. We will talk about a few of those solutions in the subsequent slides. As I mentioned, we work across various verticals, including offices, industrial manufacturing, pharmaceutical, retail spaces, outdoor, and also the infrastructure projects like metros and other government-related public projects in railways, public healthcare, and education. And our journey on Smart and Connected, the journey on Internet of Lighting started about 2 years back. And ever since we started the journey, we have won multiple coveted awards. Let's take a look at our Hall of Fame before we get into the Internet of Lighting part of it. 2018, we were awarded as the India's most connected LED lighting company of the year. That was in 2018 October by Frost & Sullivan. And the year previous to that, in 2017, again, we have won the award from Frost & Sullivan for innovations in LED part of it. And in between, you get to see a whole lot of awards which we have won over the last few years' time, including a Red Dot Design Award in 2017, about 3 years back, for a product called Verge LED. Right? And apart from that, multiple coveted awards from India Design Mark and various other awards and accolades during this journey. So what is this IOL all about? When we talk about Internet of Lighting, we are talking about this as a platform where we are able to offer a best-in-breed solution, not only from a lighting perspective, which is our core business, but also beyond lighting perspective, what are the outcomes we can deliver to our customers across different verticals, right? And the focus is also on the workplace technology part of it to make sure that whatever data points we're capturing in terms of usage of spaces, etc., makes sense to the facilities managers and real estate professionals. So by using the same lighting infrastructure, same IoT sensing infrastructure, we would like to make more sense and deliver more outcomes to our customer side. So the overall solution stack is divided into 3 parts. I will take you through each of this in some amount of detail. The first is on the safety and wellness. I think being smart is okay, but in the current pandemic times, we got to ensure that the spaces we offer to our people from a work perspective, from overall usage perspective, they have to be more safer than before. So we will talk about some solutions around the safety part of it, how we can enhance the protection. And once people start resuming offices, they start coming back to work, coming back to commercial buildings, various areas, then obviously wellness is going to be a key concern. Again, we have some solutions around the wellness part of it under IOL. We will touch upon that briefly. Most important is when people do come back to offices, come back to workplaces as they are right now, ensuring a good experience to them, a great day at work in terms of having a great employee experience, occupant experience is again imperative. So that's the one we are covering under IOL. Most important, but last but not the least, the third point is on the environment energy part of it. Whatever sensors we are using, whatever types of LEDs and fixtures we are using, they have to be super energy efficient. So that's the other one we are ensuring to make sure that the solutions what we are giving, these are all ecologically sustainable solutions for usage. From a technology perspective, we work across multiple technologies. Some of them are there in the market for a long time, like analog dimming, digitally addressable lighting interface, DALI dimming. But the newer technologies, new tech platforms like Power over Ethernet, using network-based lighting, or a Bluetooth low energy. These are some of the new technologies that are trending, and we have embraced them beautifully. And we have lots of use cases as we speak right now to enhance the employee experience and also to ensure extra safety, protection, and wellness. Li-Fi is a new technology, and through Li-Fi, we are also able to deliver more outcomes beyond lighting, which is actually the genesis of the word Internet of Lighting. Moving on, safety and wellness, which is, I think, the prime most concern right now when people start coming back to work, is how do we make sure that we are able to give additional safety, additional protection when people start getting back to workplaces, getting back to buildings. Because we don't want them to come back to work and then again go absent because of health reasons, people reporting in sick. So we got to make sure that when people are back at work, we need to give them a safe and very, very hygienic place to work out of, which has got good well-being aspects. And obviously when such kind of places are provided to the employees, the productivity also goes up. So this is the current topic of discussion. So let me introduce you our new range of fixtures which are under ultraviolet lighting. They're called as UV light fixtures, ultra ray, which is what we have launched very few weeks back into the market. Ultraviolet light is not a new technology. It's been there ever since sun is there. And one of the great benefits of UV is that it's a naturally occurring phenomena emitted by the sun. And it has the ability to damage the DNA and RNA of all the microorganisms and pathogens, which prevent the spread of bacteria and virus. And you'll see in the subsequent slides that there is enough research and evidence to prove that this particular technology, UV technology, when it is employed with the right kind of automation, right kind of autonomy, and right kind of controls, is also able to effectively control the current pandemic, which is the coronavirus or COVID-19.
Sir, 1 second. Your light on your face is quite dark. So can you do something?
Okay. Just 1 second. Let me see if I can adjust the light. Is it better now?
A little better, but not much. If you can open this curtain, probably it will come nice.
Okay. Just give me a second. Much better, right?
Yes, yes, much better. Please continue. Sorry to disturb you. Yeah.
No, that's okay. There is a natural daylight. The power of natural daylight you can't replicate. Yeah. Good. So continuing from where I had left the ultraviolet light part of it, it's a naturally emitting phenomena from the sunlight part of it. But there are specific aspects to this ultraviolet ray light, which is there, which is again divided into 3 categories: UVA, UVB, and UVC. And there's an electromagnetic radiation which happens in this particular wavelength. And especially the UVC is the topic of discussion here for ensuring extra safety and protection. This occurs between 200 nanometer to 280 nanometer wavelength. And it has got fantastic disinfection and germicidal properties if used properly, right? So this is what we're going to touch upon. And there are solutions around UVA as well, because this particular light, this spectrum doesn't reach the earth, right? It disappears in between, as you can see from the slide. And hence we need to have artificial way of providing this UVC dosage or UVA dosage. This technology has been in use in multiple other industries, like in healthcare facilities, certain cleaning facilities, etc., and been deployed for many, many years, especially in hospitals. And if you get to see, there are also simpler technologies which are possible through air purification or water purification. Water purification is a good example of how we are currently using this ultraviolet technology in our household items and also in the offices. So this is some of the research and evidence to say that this has got a fantastic amount of germicidal properties or to kill the bacteria and viruses. So this technology is proven. There is no fear around deploying this once people start getting back to the workplaces from a workplace perspective or offices perspective. So there's a research which was done by Harvard Business Review saying that if you want to have healthy buildings, right, you need to have enough amount of controls in those spaces, right? There are multiple things. You get to see a pyramid. So obviously, administrative controls is what all of us are following. Some of the administrative controls are put in place by the governments, local governments, and the organizations with whom we work for, right? So these are basically to de-densify the workplaces, increasing the distance between the workstations, work areas, to get enough physical distancing or social distancing in place. So that's an admin part of it. PPE masks, yes, but we don't want offices or workplaces to look like hospitals or look like healthcare centers. And hence the upper one, the PPE, is completely ruled out, but just below the administrative controls is where we can use different kinds of control techniques to make sure that when people do get back into buildings, the buildings are healthier to occupy and work out of. So which is what we are saying, by using ultraviolet technology, UVC lighting, we are able to get that kind of effectiveness. So introducing to you the ultra ray technology from Wipro Lighting, combination of ultraviolet lighting along with different kinds of control techniques, which I mentioned previously. So if you look at this, again, re-emphasizing protecting employee health and wellness at the workplace is super important for us. Disinfection, sterilization, decontamination of the workplace, and making sure that workplace or office is still a nice, joyous place to go and work out of and doesn't become a clean room is what we are looking at, right? So we have different options which are available from a solutioning perspective, from Wipro's perspective. The range consists of UVC, three different types of solutions. One is a UVC light direct one, which is a burst. Second one is UVC light indirect. This is for upper air purification in areas where you can't use typical linear light fixtures in suspended way, or typical 2x2 light fixtures or downlighters which can't be put into recessed ceilings. So in those areas, like for example, in entrances, reception areas, some of the meeting room areas, etc., you could have these upper air purification fixtures installed directly on the walls. And the third one is a standalone solution, which is called as UVC light cubics, which is a portable box. It does a disinfection. This is typically placed at the entrances or reception areas. When the employees come in, they can check in and they can place their laptop bag, a wallet, or any of the other belongings for a quick cleaning process and take it out. So this technology is supposed to be very, very proven. The lights have got antimicrobial properties that can kill up to 99.99% bacteria and virus, both on the air as well as surfaces. This is on the UVC part of it. And UVA is a slightly different phenomena within the same spectrum. The essential difference between the two is that when UVC cleaning is going on, human beings are not supposed to get exposed to that particular process, because it can lead to long-term damage to the skin or cause irritation in the eyes. So it has to be avoided. So very clearly, when the UVC cleaning is in process, human presence has to be, should not be there at all. So we need to have a vacancy sensor or some kind of an automation to make sure that people are notified. Whereas in case of UVA, even when the cleaning is in process, right, it is not as effective as the UVC process, but even when the cleaning is in process, human beings can still work out of that place. So this is the essential difference. So from I would say the overall portfolio perspective, multiple solutions I talked about: direct burst, indirect upper air purification, and then the standalone solutions we are talking about. So this is something which would be very, very, I would say, imperative in the current pandemic times when people are looking at reopening offices. We need to have a strategy around the safety and protection part. Moving on. Now the ultra ray. So from an application area perspective, as I mentioned, not only offices and commercial buildings, this can pretty much get used in any kind of building, so to say, in any smart building. Hospitals, healthcare facilities, diagnostic clinics, schools, when they reopen, I think we definitely need to have a strategy around it. Airports and metro stations, which are for public usage. Hospitality, currently most hotels are closed. So how do we make sure that when they reopen, they're able to give additional protective measures? And even the manufacturing and warehousing facilities, right? So the applications are unlimited. Pretty much every facet of life where we use the normal functional lighting, we can deploy these ultraviolet based solutions for providing extra safety and protection. Lighting for wellness, I have briefly shown different characteristics which are from a well building certification part of it. We are not going to do any deep dive on the lighting for wellness part of it. So lighting, once again, is an integral element along with things like air, water, nourishment. And when the buildings go for wellness certification as per well building practices, obviously there are points to be gained. We will have a look at it, how it happens, right? So the whole idea of well building certification is to make sure that buildings are optimized from energy efficiency, energy usage part of it, but people who work in the buildings are also healthy and their well-being is completely looked after. So lighting definitely plays a vital role in ensuring that kind of an environment and start working from these kind of commercial buildings and office areas. So there are different standards. The one which is there right now is a version 2. From an optimization perspective, there's a point criteria, briefly touching upon it. Through these kind of techniques, using the best of the breed lighting techniques, we can achieve 14 points out here. Circadian lighting design, which is to sync the lighting design with a human centricity part, right? To make sure that the lighting is not only changing the illumination level, but also we are able to tune the light, and there is a color rendering which is assisting the change of both the illumination level as well as the color temperature part of it. And the whole thing is tuned to make sure that user is able to get that particular dosage in that particular proportion at any given point in time. So the circadian lighting design is one of the most widely discussed topics right now to ensure extra safety and extra well-being when people return to work. Glare control, again, to make sure that we don't have any reflective surfaces and the glare is not reflecting into the eyes. And then there are daylight strategies. Some of them we'll see in terms of daylight harvesting part of it to make sure that the light is optimized properly and energy bills come down. And then there are other aspects related to visual balance, electrical lighting quality, and making sure that end of the day, what we are doing out here is not just to make sure the buildings have achieved a good amount of energy efficiency, but the people who work in the buildings have occupant comfort and occupant control. So that's what we are going to be seeing in the subsequent slides to make sure that occupant comfort, occupant convenience is taken care of. And we are now moving into an era of a no touch or a low touch. And we will see some of these examples or use cases in terms of how Internet of Lighting or Internet of Things can make this new use cases possible. So moving on from an occupant perspective, I wanted to show some new use cases, interesting use cases out here. You get to see a large cabin, office cabin of a senior manager. He is not there right now in the cabin, unoccupied cabin, and he would arrive anytime. Just wait for him to come in, right? He has come in right now. So what we're looking at is to show a quick demo in terms of how customized lighting can work, both in terms of intensity control, which is the lux level part of it, and also the color tuning part of it in terms of changing the color of the light of the CCD part, right? So that's what we'll display out here. So he has come in over here, and through his phone, smartphone, the lights get switched on, light intensity is high, and you get to see the lighting ambience in a little bit of warmer tone, which means from a color temperature perspective, in lighting parlance, this would be a 3000 Kelvin or a 4000 Kelvin kind of an appearance. The gentleman out here standing, he doesn't like that particular color appearance, and he tunes the light saying that I want more bluish ambience, right? Light is tuned to blue color, and this is the color temperature he requires, which could be typically 5700 Kelvin or a 6000 Kelvin appearance. So it's not only changing the illumination level, we are also able to tune the light seamlessly using a smartphone or a smartphone app. We have a good amount of natural light occurrence in this particular example from the windows. So the typical use case is when you have good amount of natural light coming in, then obviously the lights inside can dim accordingly, right? So that's the use case we're looking at. So it's a combination of lights and the sensors attached alongside, right, to be able to get the daylight harvesting use case in place. Once again, use case of using combi sensors or sensors which can give outcomes beyond the PIR, passive infrared motion detection, or daylight part of it. We have these combination sensors also giving the critical inputs on the room temperature data. This is 74 degrees Fahrenheit. This particular data can in turn be shared with HVAC systems or BMS systems, so that the HVAC or BMS or a lighting management, intelligent lighting management system can take control of that and change the temperature accordingly, okay, in the room. So we are able to do all of them together using the IoT sensors or smart sensors out here. The other one is an integration related to audiovisual, or you have these kinds of touch screens which are there in the office, which are enabling conferencing facilities like WebEx in this particular case. And if you have a single sign-on from an IT perspective, you don't have to sign on at multiple places. It knows that so-and-so is there in the particular area in the cabin, and the meeting alert would come automatically, right? So these are some of the occupant experiences you can use. And we are doing away in this particular example with all kinds of wall switches and controls which are to be installed, and everything is controlled through a mobile app. So mobile first is a strategy from an Internet of Things or Internet of Lighting perspective. So adapting the environment to personal preferences, I think that's something we need to definitely do once office start opening up, and to be able to have this kind of touchless experiences and no touch experiences, we should be able to give to the users. There's another example which I briefly talked about, not only the lighting part of it, the temperature part of it, then when we're able to understand the indoor air quality on the occupancy part, there are sensors which can very clearly tell us saying that these are the number of people in that particular room, and depending on that, the natural air draft can open for giving the comfort. And also when the offices do reopen, meeting rooms, there would be new mandates in place taking into consideration social distancing and physical distancing. And hence it's imperative to have people count sensors in the place to ensure that the social distancing and physical distancing norms are adhered to, right? Not only from occupant experience part of it and improving the overall comfort for the user, but also to make sure that the other aspect related to social distancing in the pandemic times is ensured. So this is what we are talking about on a new use case. So what we are doing here is to improve the occupant experience. I mentioned the mobile first. I think that's what we are talking about. where the IoT sensors or the other connected systems like Wi-Fi or Bluetooth, they will be transmitting different data points of the building at different points in time through various applications and through on-cloud based services. All of them will come to one particular user application or user app, and the user is able to view the same thing across, be it a smartphone, be it a tablet, or be it a laptop. In terms of usage, it is the same experience, seamless experience, delivering the same occupant experience. So typically in a large building kind of a scenario, these are the other use cases in terms of leveraging on the building infrastructure from a Wi-Fi perspective. I would say the Cisco Wi-Fi access points or Aruba's Wi-Fi access points, or any other booking systems in terms of synchronizing with Office 365 or Microsoft Exchange or a G Suite, depending on what kind of booking systems you have or different kinds of calendaring systems you have. We could work alongside each of them to make sure that the user is able to get his user interface all on a single pane. And these are typical, I would say, digital displays which are put in the building, either on different floors or at the entrance to the building to show how busy that particular building is in terms of occupancy. Different color denotation saying that no, red is busy, green means it is not occupied, and orange or a different color notation can be saying that no, the capacity is building up at that area. And then measures can be taken to make sure social distancing norms are adhered to. So the solution what we are talking about is applicable both in the current pandemic times to impose and restrict people to be moving around and just hovering around the spaces. We definitely want to know who is where, and we also don't have that kind of a capacity in the buildings once people start populating the spaces, once the physical distancing measures is put in place. So the point here is the solution, I would say, is equally relevant during the pandemic times. And once I think this too shall pass, once the pandemic gets over, I think maybe 1 year from now or 1.5 years from now, the same tool can be used and redeployed for delivering the new outcomes and new use cases at that point in time. And also in large buildings, the other challenge is to locate people, locate places, locate various kinds of facilities. So indoor localization services or wayfinding becomes a very important feature here. In the example out here, I had shown the second one. You get to see a red line going from one place to other place is where when I check into a building, I will make myself available saying that I'm here and I would like to meet with XYZ person. The XYZ person knows that I'm there. He doesn't have to ask anybody for directions and he can just straight away come over there. Or otherwise, I'm looking for a meeting room of my choice. The map comes up saying that no, I'm here and the meeting room of my choice is in the other corner. I can straight away go there through the guidance, through the wayfinding guidance. Right, so this is how the application looks like. The web application, when it is on a digital screen or a kiosk screen, or the employee app on a mobile phone. This is how it looks like in terms of showing what is where and what is available in those areas. So workplace analytics, this one what we talked about is from an occupant comfort, occupant experience perspective. But for the facilities managers or the real estate professionals who are running these smart buildings, they also need to see the spaces have to be utilized more optimally. Right, meeting rooms have to be utilized more optimally. How do we make sense over there? Like the one we talked about in terms of putting mandates in place for meeting rooms. Obviously, if the meeting room is not getting used, it should be available for other people to use, right? So basically what we can do is these are the heat maps, right? We can capture it through different kinds of sensing systems, different types of Wi-Fi or Bluetooth systems. We understand the journey taken by an employee or a visitor in the building, and we can get to see the trail. We can understand how the traffic is building up in these areas. And like we have red zone, orange zone, green zone for the current pandemic situation, even in the office areas, when you know that when the green zone is turning into an orange zone, you know that the social distancing norms are getting breached. So you can alert the people accordingly, either by different kinds of applications you can do that. So the point here is we need to have data available. We need to have smart sensors, IoT sensors available to be able to deliver these outcomes. And it's not just a play of either the lighting or the sensors. We need to have a complete system or a solution stitched together to be able to deliver these kind of interesting outcomes around the Internet of Things. So this is relevant both during the pandemic time, and once the pandemic clears, we can definitely relocate new use cases at that point in time. And the spaces part of it from a utilization, yeah, so we have gone ahead with de-densification, but thing is that, if we had 100 seats earlier, because of physical distancing, social distancing norms, that 100 now would have become 60 seats or 50 seats. right? With reduced capacity, you can't have everybody now coming into the office. So how do we make sure that these workstations or desks are getting utilized properly, utilized to the most optimal way? Then in that case, reallocation of spaces which are not getting used becomes imperative for the facilities managers, right? So this is to make sure the space utilization is done and monitored properly from an FM or a corporate real estate professional perspective. Improved sense of security. Most of these are on network-based systems, and hence you should be able to get meaningful data from the sensing systems and various other connected systems like access control, security cameras, etc., flowing into the same pipe, which is running different from your core data pipe. But this is run as a smart building service, and the owner of that particular building, the facilities head, is able to get many more outcomes to ensure extra safety, wellness, protection, and obviously a good occupant experience when employees start getting back to work, right? So there are different kinds of sensors which are available there to make sure that the workspace is optimized. These are some typical analytics you get to see how places are getting used. We get typical trends, average trends, peak occupancy, average occupancy, capacity versus occupancy, how each of these areas are getting used, how different desks are getting used, how different rooms are getting used. Okay, date-wise, time-wise, building-wise, department-wise, floor-wise. So this is data is important, but having got the data, how do I harness the data to deliver actionable insights? I think that's going to be very, very important out here. So this is what the tool does, not only improving the occupant experience, but to be able to really give outcomes which are necessary for the facilities managers. So again, we leverage on the power of Power BI, the Power Business Analytics, to be able to give different outcomes related to usage of spaces. And also through these tools, we can also automate the cleaning cycles, which means with the reduced staff right now, the janitor need not go all over the place. He knows that a particular area has got used, and that is the area which needs to be cleaned first. So cleaning reports, alerts, etc., can be completely automated. So the whole idea is to now move from one level, from sensing to automation. And I think in the days to come, one has to have a strategy from moving from automation to autonomy, right? Where we will not have too many people moving around the workplaces for doing manual type of operations and cleaning. So we need to really, really have a strategy around in place to look at, to begin with, definitely automation, but autonomy. Okay, autonomous workplaces is something what we are deeply investigating on at this point in time under Internet of Lighting. So end of the day, I think all of this is nice to have, but having nice to have will not cut the bill with the CFO. Then ensuring that the overall cost of operation is minimized and we are able to work around within the budgets is going to be super important out here. So having a strategy around the reduced OPEX is also going to be a key. Daylight harvesting we spoke about, and from a facility manager perspective, he gets to see different fixtures. He is able to set the controls around it. But when he sees the layout, he is also able to monitor the entire network of lights, sensors, and the entire thing at just a click of a button. So this is how we can achieve these outcomes. When we are able to do these kind of calibrations and interventions, obviously it's going to lead to a huge amount of energy savings. Okay, for the reference sake example, we have put 50%, but if we are able to have strategies around it, from what we are spending right now to what we can save, it can be as high as 85%, 90%. We need to have a strategy around it to achieve this particular goal, to save the energy and lower overall cost of operation. So briefly touching upon some of the products, we have a very, very nice range of award-winning products, not only for smart workplaces, but I would say safe workplaces, right? I did touch upon the ultraviolet part of it. I touched upon the automation. I touched upon autonomy of lighting. So these are different form factors we can do for offices. We have whole range of portfolio of fixtures which can serve needs of different customers across verticals and across industries. I think all of us need to have that hope that this pandemic gets cleared as soon as possible, and all of us are able to get back to a new normal, which is not going to be very different from the old normal, and make sure that we have a sustainable, livable earth where we can have a good life, right? And wishing everybody a very, very best life ahead right now. Take care of yourselves and make sure that we have a medicine or a vaccine coming our way as soon as possible. So rays of hope is what we are terming this entire thing in the current situation. Hope this too shall pass and we'll have good times back soon. And with a clear message saying, partner with India, progress with India. We are here, companies like Wipro, we are homegrown company. We are proud to be an Indian company of great heritage. And we would love to serve customers across various cities, various towns, various villages, across various verticals. And we would like to partner whichever kind of business you are on in terms of making sure that we are able to make sense to you through our Internet of Lighting and Internet of Things platform. Thank you very much once again.
Hi, Rama. So we have one question which I'll just ask you if you can answer.
Sure.
It's so we have someone asked from Goa. Pharmaceuticals have an issue with UV lighting as an disinfect.
Yeah.
Do you have any other suitable solutions?
Sandeep, can you say that again? The voice broke in between. Yeah.
Pharmaceuticals have an issue with UV lighting as a disinfectant.
Okay.
Have any other suitable solutions?
We are investigating. Obviously, we need to see the merit of deploying the ultraviolet solutions in a pharma manufacturing. We understand the concern. These are supposed to be very, very highly effective, but using that in pharma can damage certain, if I understand rightly, their process, right, or their production. So we will come back. Currently, we are investigating other technologies as well, but I wanted to present the new solutions under ultraviolet. On the pharma part of it, if there are any concerns, we'll circle back.
Someone also asked about, I mean, how effective is human-centric lighting in basically office spaces?
How effective is human-centric lighting? I cannot quantify in terms of numbers because at the end of the day, we are looking at an employee experience and an occupant experience. And if we are able to design the circadian rhythm very well, the research has proven that it improves the productivity and effectiveness significantly. Currently, I would say from an adoption perspective, especially the office spaces and workspace in India, we have a steep learning curve to take. We are at a moment where we are doing a little bit of strategies around the dimming part of it and having lighting management system. But a truly human-centric lighting or a biodynamic lighting, there are very few examples which have been implemented, use cases. But indeed, from a research standpoint, if we are able to address, by the way, the human-centric lighting is not just the color tuning part. It's only one aspect of it. You need to have a strategy for control of illumination, lux level. Then second one is the color temperature control, right? And the tunability part of it. And the third one is the color rendering index to make sure that all these three parameters in right dosage when they're mixed together with the right, I would say the automation strategy, then only we are able to deliver that human centricity. But otherwise it'll be color tuning, okay, simple color tuning, which is not as effective. I think that's something we need to clear the air. Color tuning is not equal to human-centric lighting, right? So we have experts in our team who can definitely devise solutions around human-centric lighting part of it, and feel free to reach us out, and then we'll be able to give the right solutions.
Thank you very much, Rama, for speaking at Smart Home Virtual Connect and Smart Office Spaces and Intelligent Building event. Right. And wish you all the best.
Thank you very much, Sandeep, and thank you very much for all the participants who have joined, and stay safe.
Thank you.
Thank you.